Buy Black Podcast, Episode 4D. 5 Secrets You Should Know Before Paying Another Company to Set Up Your LLC. Welcome to Buy Black, the only podcast dedicated to helping you find, connect with, and support Black-owned businesses. We're on a mission to bring consumers and business owners together to ignite the global Black economy. I'm your host, Gerald Jones, and if you're a Black business owner or a socially conscious consumer, you've joined the right community. Ready? Let's get to work. Welcome back to Buy Black Podcast. Thank you for joining me on the final episode in our series on starting your own business. This episode, number 4D, was actually supposed to come out last Thursday, but I lost a few days because I'm kind of learning how hard it is to try to run this show while also traveling, trying to manage my day job and all the other projects I have going on. So I just had to take a quick break. I did not have the time or the energy to hit you on Thursday, but I noticed even in the absence of a new show, the downloads are still going up every single week, which is incredible. Really appreciate you guys being out there. So today we're going to finish out that series, kind of put us back on track. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm also going to take this coming Thursday off. Give me an entire week to finish lining up the other interviews I have coming up for you guys. I've got 3 incredible interviews lined up for you. 2 with people who I have grew up with, had personal relationships with. They're now running their own businesses, both in the fashion industry, actually. And then also a good friend of mine introduced me to a guy named Mike De Los Santos, who runs Mike D's barbecue sauce. So we're going to have a great conversation with him coming up for you as well. All real entrepreneurs, down to earth. You may have noticed on this show, I'm not so much concerned with trying to go out and find names. I'm trying to find people who are right here in the community with us, working with us, the people who are right next door to you running their own business, because it's more accessible when you can see that it's people that you either grew up with or that you know, or who you could see as being, you know, a friend of yours or whatever, and saying, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. So I'm certain that at some point, you know, we'll have some big names on the show, but I'm less concerned about that. More concerned with getting people who've got that real experience out in the marketplace and who can share that knowledge with you guys and also connect with you to help them grow their business. So today's show is about the 5 secrets that you should know before paying another company to help you set up your business or your LLC. So this is the final show in my series. We'll recall back. The first one was 5 critical things that you don't need to start your business and 3 things that you do. Those 3 things, again, were a real or perceived problem, a solution to that problem, and a market of people who are willing to pay you for your solution. Going on to the second show, which was the essential elements of a business model. Those elements included your value proposition, your customers, how you manage the relationship with those customers, as well as how you deliver value to those customers. And on the other side, how you create that value proposition by your key activities, the key resources you use, and the key partners that you have, all above what is considered to be your cost structure, or what it costs you to run your business, as well as your revenue streams, how you get money to come in. So just going more in depth. And then the episode that we did last week was about the different types of business entities that you could set up to run your company, whether that is a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a corporation, or an LLC. So today we're going to go deeper into talking about actually setting up your business entity. And I got to start you off with another disclaimer, just like last week. I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. This is just information to tell you a little bit more detail about what's out there, what's available to you, so that you can make decisions on how you want to go forward. But I always recommend consult an accountant, consult an attorney, talk to somebody who actually works in this business of helping people get set up, because your specific situation in your specific state may be completely different about what I'm talking about. For example, I live in Nebraska. I'm from Arkansas, but I've lived in California. I can tell you right now, if you're trying to start a business in California, based on advice I'm giving about my experience in Nebraska, you are going to be way off base, because California's laws and the details that they actually put on you that you've got to be able to navigate in order to get a business started there, the costs of it, all the different regulations, and it's crazy. You almost absolutely need to have a lawyer involved in order to do it right there, depending on what your industry is. So understand that this is just general advice that I'm giving based on my experiences, based on my research. Absolutely take the information and then go do more research about your specific situation, your specific state, your specific industry before you go off and do things. So with all that being said, I'm going to quickly jump into these 5 things so that I can move on to a couple other topics I want to discuss in this episode. So the first thing that you need to know when it comes to paying another business to set up your LLC, and of course, I'm coming from the standpoint of don't pay somebody else to do it. All right. I don't think that it is necessary to pay another company $500, $600, $700 to do this business paperwork for you, especially if you're just starting a basic mom and pop style business for the first time. So the first thing is, if you're looking at doing an LLC, the only documentation that you need to set up an LLC is something called your Articles of Organization and then an operating agreement. Articles of Organization literally just is a document that says, hey, this is the name of the company. This is who is a part of this LLC. Here's who the members are. Here's the contributions that they're making into it. Here's who's going to manage it and run it on a daily basis. Here's how all of the equity is going to be distributed. Like all those just little basic pieces of information that the state needs to know about your business. That's what you got to submit. Pretty much for every state out there, if you go to Google and you just Google a template for LLC Articles of Organization for your state, you'll be able to find a template, put your information into that, and submit it to your state. If it's not exactly right, at least from my experience, they'll kick it back to you and say, hey, this piece is wrong, that piece is wrong. I need you to resubmit. And then you change those pieces and you go and you resubmit. It's not a huge, ordeal. And in many states, it doesn't cost that much money to do. I know in Nebraska, it's like $100. I looked online for Arkansas. It was like $50 to put in your Articles of Organization paperwork. I mean, very, very inexpensive in a lot of states. So the cost of potentially doing it wrong 1 or 2 times up front, you actually get the value back in the lessons learned with that. It's not costing you a lot, because if they don't file the paperwork for you, they don't charge you. At least in Nebraska, they don't. They don't charge you until they actually push the paperwork through and it is accepted. So if it gets rejected, you're not getting charged. Again, might be different for your state, but for my state, there's not really a cost to that. The other side is the operating agreement, right? That is an internal document. If you're starting up an LLC as a sole member, you're the only one in it, then everything inside that document is going to be set up by you the way that you want it to be set up. And you just keep that internally. You sign it, and that is your agreement on how you're going to run your business. If you have multiple people inside of it, it's kind of the same thing. You all sign it, but you all agree on, who gets equity, who's managing what, where the responsibilities are. And all that really is a basic understanding of here is how we are going to run this business. You can find those templates online as well. You don't need another company to draft that for you, because it's really a fill in the blank. So that's secret number 1. Secret number 2, before you go and pay somebody else to file your paperwork for you, many states have actually implemented e-filing programs so that you can submit your documents in PDF form directly to the Secretary of State's office. Some states, you still have to mail this stuff in. I get it. In my state, Nebraska, you can submit it all online. You literally just go on there, you put your document in PDF format after you've already finished it. You submit it in there, you give them your credit card number for them to charge. They go back through, they check everything. If it all checks out, if nobody else has the name that you want, and if you filled out the documentation correctly, within the next day, I get an email back that says, hey, everything's been accepted. We charge a card. You now are this business. And I get that initial documentation saying, hey, here is your, state ID number. So what another company might charge you $200, $300, $400, $500 to do, and then tell you, okay, you'll get your paperwork back in 15 to 30 days. Depending on your state, you might be able to go in there and do it yourself and have the information back to you the very next day. So before you just decide you don't have the knowledge or experience to do this yourself, look into it. See how easy it may be in your own state. Secret number 3, there's an issue about a registered agent. When you go to file an LLC or a corporation, you've got to give the state the name of your registered agent. This is just the person who is going to get all the legal documentation for your business, right? So if there's any process that needs to be served, whether you're being sued or whether it is your tax filings, or if you got a corporation and you have to submit something like your annual report, this registered agent is going to be the person who all that official documentation from the government is going to go through to get to you. When you're starting a very small business, small LLC, there's absolutely no reason why that registered agent can't be you. So a lot of times these other businesses, that's how they get you. It's like, oh, well, you need a registered agent. You want us to be your registered agent. We've got the experience. We can do this. We can do that. We can do this. We can do that. Okay, that may be true. But if you're starting a very small business, just a basic business, let's just say you're starting a janitorial service, right? And you're just setting up your LLC. And you're going to be operating at your clients' locations, and your office might be in your home. So why would you need to pay another company to receive all your legal documentation when you could just have your own home set as the registered agent location, your name, and boom, you're the registered agent. It all comes to you. Now, the one thing about this that you should know is registered agents, that is a publicly available piece of information. So if you do set yourself up as a registered agent and you set your home address as the place where they're going to send this documentation, your home address and your name as the registered agent now becomes a piece of public information. Anybody can go and they can request that information and find out your name and where you live. So understand that. But if you have a separate office and you still want to be your own registered agent, you can just have them send that mail to your office. So just understand that there is that piece of being able to have a different location than your home that is on public record, but that may be a huge deal for you. It may not. For me, as opposed to going and having to pay another company $300, $500 to do something that I can do for myself, to just receive paperwork, it's a no-brainer. I'm not doing that. Not with a very small business, not when I'm just now trying to jump into this thing and learn how to run a business. There's no need for all of that complication. Now, here's another thing about a registered agent. Let's just say that you live in a state where corporate law and business law is really unfavorable, and you decide to set up your business entity in another state, say Delaware. Delaware is a very, very popular state for businesses because they actually have a completely separate business court that is set up around that. And so a lot of companies set up in Delaware. All right. So let's just say you decide to do that. Okay. Well, in that case, you would need to have a registered agent's office in Delaware where all of your legal documentation would be sent. So I get that. But if you're just going and setting up a basic LLC, you're using your home state, you're running it out of your home, don't pay somebody $300, $400, $500 to be your registered agent. All they're doing is receiving paperwork for you and then giving it to you. All right. Number 4, getting your employer identification number. That's another thing that these companies like to charge for. It's like, oh, we can go and file this paperwork for you with your state. We'll also get your IRS employee identification number for you. We'll get it all taken care of for you. Guess what? You can literally get that number in 10 minutes. Let's give the example. You've already filed your LLC paperwork with the state and you've gotten your information back. You've gotten your state ID number. You are now officially a business in your state. Let me tell you how easy it is for you to get your federal employee identification number. I'm going to do it right now. All right. I'm opening up Firefox. Boom. Firefox is open. I go to the search bar. Type in employer identification number. Search. Very first thing that comes up. Apply for an employer identification number at irs.gov. I click on this site. You can literally click on the button that says apply online now. When you do that, it takes you directly to a site where you can put in all of the information that is on the documents your state just gave you with your state identification number, all that information that you need just goes directly into this IRS site. You fill out the information. You tell them whether you want to be taxed as a sole proprietorship if you're a single member LLC, or as a partnership, or as a corporation. However you want to get taxed, you tell them all that information right there. Once you give them all the information, you click submit. It pops up your IRS employer identification number right there. You can print off that official document from the IRS site right there immediately. So if you're in one of these states that has online filing, where you can actually submit your paperwork and then have it back to you approved within a day, a couple of days, as soon as you get that paperwork, you could go and get your employer identification number from the IRS that same day, that very moment, print it off, take it with you. You could literally go to the bank with everything that you need, open up your business bank account, drop in however much money it is that you decided to put into your business up front as equity, and you are ready to go. It literally is that simple in a lot of states. But that employer identification number is that simple for everybody once you get that information from your state. So paying another company to do all that stuff for you, it's just a ripoff. So the last thing I mentioned earlier about getting set up in your state or getting set up in a different state, right? There are a few states in the United States that are very business friendly, very tax friendly, for corporations, especially C corporations. Delaware is a huge one. Almost every single major corporation that you see out there actually has their headquarters in Delaware. But this last tip is about avoiding that trap, right? It can be really easy to go and look at all these different blogs and say, you know what, let me figure out which state I want to put my stuff in. I don't want it to be in my state because I want to take advantage of these tax advantages and these business law advantages and all this kind of stuff. Let me tell you, when you are first getting started, do not worry about that, especially if it's just, again, a basic mom and pop type business that you're running just to get started and learn. Because let's just say you do set up your corporate office in a different state with a more favorable tax situation. If you plan on doing business in the state that you live in, you're still going to have to file paperwork as a foreign entity operating in your state. So now you're doubling the paperwork that you have to submit to start your business and start working. Not only that, you're probably doubling the tax information that you're going to have to submit at the end of the year, because you're headquartered in one state. They're going to want their piece. You're doing business in another state. They're going to want their piece. And you're going to double the amount of work that you have to do with paperwork filings, right? If you have to submit annual reports or semi-annual reports or biannual reports, depending on that state, you're doubling the amount of work that you have to do in order to file all that documentation. It is complicated enough to learn how to run a business in the first place if you've never done it before. So if this is your first foray, if you're trying to go in and learn how to actually run a successful business, adding all these other layers of documentation and paperwork and complexity on top of it is really just going to distract you and could potentially cost you more money than if you just start off and say, I'm going to do the simplest thing first. I'm going to file in the state that I live in. I'm going to see what these tax structures are all about. I'm going to see what this paperwork that I have to file is all about. I'm going to learn how to run my business. You're probably going to be better off and you're going to become successful much quicker than if you spend all this time up front trying to get everything perfect. Because I can almost guarantee you, your very first business venture may not make you any money. It might fail. Most of them do. But in that experience, in that failure, if you will, the lessons you learn are the ones that are going to carry you through success in your later businesses. So a lot of times this first one is literally just a learning experience, but you can't even learn those lessons if you spend so much time trying to get every little detail about it perfect the first time out. Do the simplest thing, set yourself up so that you can learn the right lessons quickly. If you're going to fail fast, and then jump back up and move forward and don't make the same mistakes again. but paralyzing yourself with all these other crazy decisions and throwing money out the window at this company and that company left and right to try to get them to do the things that you think you can't do yourself, it's just not the way to roll. It's way simpler than that, right? Way simpler than that. So do not fall into the traps. So again, those are the 5 secrets that you should know before paying another company to help you set up your LLC or your corporation. That's 1, you only need 2 documents to set up an LLC. That is your articles of organization. That's what you send into the state, and an operating agreement, which is what you hold on to. Now, if you're setting up a corporation, we talked last week about all the documentation and all the complexities that go into setting up a corporation. So we're not going to cover those again. Really just talking about an LLC here. Number 2, many states have implemented e-filing for the Secretary of State's office, which means you can drop your paperwork into them in a PDF form and have an answer back from them within a day or within a couple of days. And if you're wrong, a lot of times they'll just tell you what you need to fix and you can resubmit. So there's really no need to pay another company to do all that stuff for you. It doesn't really cost you anything to make the mistakes and learn for yourself. Number 3, the registered agent. That is the person who receives official documentation from the government on your company's behalf. Again, starting your very small business, there's no reason that couldn't or shouldn't be you. But remember, the registered agent's address is a matter of public record. Somebody can go and request it. And if it's your home address, now they've got your home address. So understand that component. Number 4, getting your employer identification number from the IRS is as simple as going to a website, putting in the information that you just got from your state once you have your LLC approved, and then getting that piece of paper, getting that number immediately, which is everything that you're going to need to be able to go set up a bank account and get your business rolling. And then the 5th one, worrying about trying to pick which state you're going to set your documentation up in. If this is your first business, just do it in the state that you live in. It'll be a lot less of a headache than if you're going about the business of trying to figure out, where do I set myself up? Now I have to fill out foreign entity paperwork. Now I've got 2 different sets of paperwork in 2 different states and 2 different sets of laws I have to figure out and learn, and also how to learn how to run my business. Just keep it simple. Start in your own state, learn those lessons there. And then as you grow as an entrepreneur and a business owner and you figure out how to navigate those waters, maybe at a later date, you make modifications to where this business is incorporated or established versus, or even a later business, depending on how it goes. But up front, keep it simple. So that's it. That is everything with the recap. So I wanted to take the last few minutes that I have on this show to talk about some other things that have been going on in the news. Number 1, this thing going on in Virginia, this crazy white supremacist event, and then the violence that's been going on around that, and the crazy social media storm going around it. I've seen so many people defending these guys, like literally defending a person who rammed his car through a group of people and killed at least one. Like, but look at them. They shouldn't have been there. It's their fault. They're not good people either. Like, what? Like, hold on. You're not a racist? Okay, so we've established that. You're telling me you're not a racist, but you want to sit here and defend an avowed white supremacist at a white supremacist rally who murdered people at that rally because they disagreed with him. Is this really a hill you want to die on? It's crazy to me that mentality is seen as normal. Like, people can actually say, no, I'm not racist, and then make that argument like it's just nothing. It's crazy to me. And it's just a reminder that, when it comes to the psychology of this whole thing, we are fighting an uphill battle. It is almost impossible to get people to understand. Like, when I say I want to buy black, I want to encourage people to buy black. That's not saying I hate everybody else. Don't ever spend your money in any other business. It's saying we are at a huge disadvantage in this country, economically, politically, socially. And if we don't get our economics in order, if we don't start operating like every other demographic in this nation operates, every other one except us, and start our dollars inside the community, keep them in our community as long as we possibly can to help wealth grow, and then use that wealth in order to wield political power like every other group does. If we don't start doing that, and encouraging each other to do that and seeing the positive effects of doing that, then nothing is going to change. Nothing's going to change for us. Nothing's going to change for anybody else. So when I see people who are smart people, who call themselves caring people, actually able to do the mental gymnastics of somehow defending a white supremacist murderer, it just reminds me how impossible it's going to be to get those same people to understand the importance and the value of this movement. And God knows they won't support it, which means that those of us who already do get it can't just say, yeah, I get it. It'll be cool to buy black someday. Like, no, you got to get in it. Like, you got to actually start making some moves. You got to connect people with each other. You got to actively be looking for ways to support black owned businesses, ways to help black entrepreneurs gain the experience and the skills they need to succeed, because ownership of business in the community, that's our only hope. That is the only hope that anything is ever going to change, that we're ever going to take control of anything. In the whole history of this nation, the only times we've had control of anything was when black people owned their own businesses, and that money was spent inside the community and went to causes inside the community. When we lost all of that after the Civil Rights Act was passed, we've not had control over anything since. So we have to get back to that. And we have to realize that the people on the other side of this thing are not taking a day off. How can we? That's the mentality that we got to have. We got to see that these guys they're not going away. This mentality is not going away. We can't just continue to be complacent and just let that be the order of the day. The other thing on the NFL is kind of the same thing. It's along the same lines. It's a frustration for me. Like all June, all July, all I'm seeing on social media is, yo, if Cap doesn't get signed, I'm done with the NFL. I'm boycotting the NFL. Not spending a minute watching the NFL. They ain't getting nothing from me. It's not going to be on in my house. Period. Dot. Not happening. And then today, it's Sunday, August 13th. My oldest daughter's 9th birthday, by the way. Today, I'm looking at social media and all these same dudes are like, yo, man, your team is trash. You got some explaining to do. My team is on it. It's like, hold up, bro. I thought you weren't watching the NFL. Oh, okay. I guess we was just posting on social media. It was what was hot right then. We gonna boycott, but not really. Like that mentality, that again, on this side, that this institution is not for you. It does not stand for anything that is in support of you. It punishes people who speak up for you, but you're going to support it though. You're going to talk all this stuff about not supporting it, but then you're going to turn around and the first opportunity you get, first preseason games out there, I'm on it. Got to see these guys. Yo, who else does that? Nobody else does that. Anybody else in this country says, yo, you're not getting another dime. You're not getting another minute of my time until you start treating us right. Those people follow through. And you know what? They make change happen. We have got to get out of this easily placated mentality. If you're going to make moves, make moves. If you want to make a change, get up, do something and start making a change and then follow through. Like, don't be so easily distracted. Don't be so easily enticed that all it takes is one day, one game to come on television. It's like, oh, well, I mean, next year, yo. Come on, man. Do something. Do something real. Take this stuff seriously. I'm not saying take yourself seriously because I know I don't take myself seriously at all. I love having fun. I love playing around. I love making jokes about myself. But I take the work I do seriously. I take the situation in this nation that I'm facing, that my kids are facing, that my family is facing seriously. If you're going to do it, just do it. If you're going to claim that you're going to take some action, that you're going to do something, then follow through. Encourage other people around you to follow through. Like, actually join the movement. Become that change. Because otherwise, we just sitting here talking and not doing nothing. And I'm tired of that. I'm sick of it. All right. So that's enough of that. So last things here, some coming attractions. I'll talk to you guys about the interviews we got coming up. Topics, requests. My email is gjones@buyblackpodcast.com. If there's topics that you want to hear or you want to talk about on this show, I'm all about it. Again, the only thing I'm not getting into is politics. And when I say politics, I mean specifically, I'm not spending any time on this show mentioning the names of any specific politicians who are out there and doing whatever it is that they're doing. It's not coming on this show. Current events, absolutely, we'll talk about them. The current state of the world, of the nation, things like that. Yeah, we'll talk about that because that all applies to our economy and changes that we need to make. But I'm not spending any time complaining about what one person or another person is doing because they're going to do what they're going to do. We got to start doing what we're going to do. The website is in its final stages. I got a preview of what that looked like. It's looking really good. So I'm going to get the final changes on that and then get ready to take it live. Again, I want you to reach out to me about your Black-owned business. I don't care how large or how small you are. If you are out there and you want to get exposure to a market of people who are looking to buy Black, reach out to me. gjones@buyblackpodcast.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And then other things, when it comes to engagement with the show, you guys have heard me in all these other previous episodes talking about what's in the episode description. So I'm going to go a little bit more detail into that. So whatever podcast app you are on, there should be a description of this episode associated with it. I put links to all the resources that I reference in the show into those descriptions. Now, depending on your podcast player, those links may or may not be live. I hope that they are live, but if they're not for you, you can just copy them, paste them into your search bar, and you can get to every single reference that I talk about in the show. And if you're sitting at a computer and you're following along on shows like when we talked about the business model, you can actually use those references, follow along, learn, access them, things like that. So always check the episode descriptions for these shows. Look up the links and the resources so that you can actually get the information without having to go and search for it on your own. Other things, Facebook, that's kind of my primary spot that I'm at these days. Go to the Buy Black podcast page on Facebook and like the page. I really appreciate that. We also have a Facebook group. It's called Buy Black Podcast Community. Join that community. I would love to have a conversation with you and see the conversation between you guys about topics we talk about on the show or making topic requests for future shows, and just starting the engagement there. As this thing goes along, I will figure out how to expand the value of that group for you. And I'm all about getting recommendations and suggestions from you guys out there about how to make this stuff more relevant and more actionable for you. Because as we know by now, I'm all about taking action. Do something. So if you need my help, just let me know what you need from me and I'll jump on it. But that's it. That's it for today. Probably going to take the rest of this week off and then come back to you on next Monday with a new episode, hopefully an interview. So, hey, thanks for continuing to help this audience grow. Thanks for reaching out to your friends, passing it on to them. And I look forward to talking to you next week. Out. Thank you for being part of the Buy Black podcast community. If you've enjoyed today's show, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Join us next time for another empowering episode.